Welcome to Notability Part 1. Obviously, this is a bit of a low-budget situation in terms of recording, but I think it'll be functional and work. So a couple of prerequisites. Number one, you need to make sure you've got Google Drive set up on your iPad so that you can access your Google Drive. As we go through the training, we're going to access that and play around with it a little bit. The other thing you need to do is to make sure you've got your email set up to where you can fetch and send email on here. That'll help us practice bouncing back and forth within Notability. And obviously, you need to have Notability. So when you fire up Notability, yours may look different. I'll tell you about that in a second. I just want to take real quickly a tour of what you're seeing here. Right here, I said this is low budget. These are the categories, subjects. They've got a variety of ways they talk about it. Here are all the notes. Now right now I've got all notes selected and I've got 10 notes inside my app here. Up here are the ways you can sort your list here by name, by modified date, by created date. The magnifying glass, obviously search. The square with the incoming arrow is a way to import information into Notability, PDF files, whatnot. You can import from your Google Drive. You can also import from your email. And then the opposite of that, the export right there, the rectangle with the outgoing arrow, is how you export a note out to Google Drive, email, in a variety of formats, that kind of stuff. And we'll deal with those fairly early. What I want to do as we go through this series is talk about the big stuff first. Things like getting the stuff in, getting material out, a little bit about graphics types because that'll help you figure out what you're doing later on, and then get into the nitty-gritty on individual notes. Let's talk about how to manage notes and then what you're looking at here first. At the bottom left-hand corner here, you got the eye, the question mark, and the gear icon. If I hit the eye, that gives you basically app information, gets you some support. And if you have an idea, a feature idea, they actually are pretty responsive on ideas. The question mark's a good one to know because this is your online manual, and it'll show you, it'll show you a lot of stuff about it, and it's quick and easy reading, how to organize the notes, and you can tell there's not a whole lot of text here, so it's quick, fast, easy to read, and sharing, importing iCloud, all that kind of stuff. And yes, I stole a lot of the material from the user guide. So truth in advertising here. The gear is what I want to take a look at right now because this is some of the stuff you're going to want to know how to do. First thing you're going to want to do is to manage accounts. Set up your Google Drive. Now, if you also have the Dropbox app and an account and or the Box app and account, you can go ahead and set them up and use all three if you want to. But because our students are using Google Drive, definitely use Google Drive. I have had people tell me they'll use Dropbox for their stuff they're working on or their in-process stuff or their classwork stuff if you're taking a grad school course or whatever, and then use the Google Drive feature for use with students. Separating things out like that is probably a good idea mentally, keeping things separate. But the first thing you'll do, as mine's already set up, is go ahead and set up an account. If I clicked on the Dropbox login, it won't do anything. Well, it calls it, and then has me sign in and that kind of stuff. So, which I really don't want to do right now. Once you've got that set up, you can do something called auto backup, which I highly recommend. I've got mine backed up to Google Drive. If I click on the gear icon, it'll automatically sending it to the Notability folder in the file format Note. And you see we've got 5 different options here. And Note is the native Notability note. So for example, if you had Notability on another device, you could actually have it auto backupping. You can actually, import from Google Drive onto that device, your iPhone, for example, and view all of them. There's not an easy way to keep that synced up. Hang on to that thought for a second. And then you can see which subjects do you want to back up. Subjects, it's talking about the things below the categories here. These are categories right there, and then you got subjects underneath it. It's just a way to organize it and what they call it. So I highly recommend Auto Backup. If you wanted to do something automatic, you could do iCloud, and there we go. You do iCloud. Now this is only if you have multiple iOS devices, for example, 2 iPads that are tied into the same iCloud Apple ID. If you do, and you have Notability on both devices, and those are the 2 caveats, the same Apple ID on both devices and Notability on both devices, turn that on, it automatically backs up your notes to iCloud, and then your other device will automatically sync up with it. So if you use the Notability on multiple devices, handy thing to know. Themes, this has nothing to do with functionality or how it works. It has everything to do with how you make it work, or how you make it look. And I chose colorful because that works well with this cheesy camera that I'm working on. Pick one you like and go with it. Document, these are just some of the presets. It's gonna, in this case, everything's gonna default to note, include the date, which I find handy. What color background do you want? Do you want a grid on it? What font and size and style and color do you want the type to automatically come up on? Checking the spelling. And then the handwriting. The zoom mode is what you've seen Mike Franklin use on numerous times. We're going to play around with it. And then left-handed mode, I have not found that useful. It's useful if you're the type of lefty who curls your hand around to write. I personally don't. What it does is basically flip the menus, and I did not find that very useful. So I leave it off. And then if you use the iOS sleep timer, that tells it to ignore it, keep things awake, because I'm going to be working on it in a while. So those are some of your settings. Real quickly, your organization here, you see I've got all notes, unfiled notes. If you type a new note and you don't file it, it automatically shows up here. And I've got welcome. I've only got one note here. The welcome to Notability is what automatically comes with Notability, and it has some handy stuff. It's basically a little training document. Then I've got 4 in MDS category here. And then you see I've got me stuff. This is a divider. And then 2, they call them subjects. I don't know why, but you got to call them something. So I've got music here, and then some notes to myself here. So it's pretty easy to A, get lost, and B, get unorganized, and C, keep things organized. It just depends on how your brain works. I suggest thinking about it first, because I made the mistake of just throwing things willy-nilly, and then I had to sit here and figure out, okay, wait, where did I put stuff? And that finally got me into getting things organized. So we'll get to that probably in the next, part 2. One thing I do want to touch base on very quickly, and this is one of probably the only, hello, go ahead and focus. Wow. There we go. Let's give it something to focus on, perhaps. Or not. Okay, the camera has gone absolutely nuts on me now. There we go. All right, now that it's focused, there's 2 basic kinds of graphics on a computer. Let's make this a little bigger. There's bitmap, and you can think of that as paint on the screen. Okay? And then there's vector. And you can think of that as math. Okay, now is when you should ask, why should I care? I'm waiting for Ron to say that. Here's why you should care. It helps just understand there are 2 basic ways to get stuff on the screen. And the reason it helps is because you get this little scissors thing, and that allows me to cut and move stuff around. So for example, I can highlight the A, and part of it, and you see it's moving the part of the P and the AIN, but leaving the T. And the reason it can do that is because this is a bitmap graphic. So if I select that, I can move the P over here. And the program is smart enough to understand, even though I'm highlighting only one part of the eye, it's taking the entire eye, which is nice. So I can move stuff around like that, and I don't have to be real precise here. So that's a bitmap graphic. I can slice and dice in the middle of it. Vector, this is type. So if I type stuff on here, the thing about vector is it uses a mathematical formula to represent what you're seeing on screen. And the reason why that's important is that allows you to change things, and it doesn't change, it doesn't change the quality of it. So I can make it as big as I want to, and it still is a high quality type here. But the other thing about this is you can't select a vector graphic like that. You see it won't let me. I can select the M and move that out of the way. I can select the E because those are bitmaps, but I cannot select the type. So just a handy little thing to know. One of them's math, one of them's paint on the screen. Paint you can use the scissors with. Anything else you're going to be using the text tool because that's what you're going to be, because that's a math thing. And that's also why you can change the typeface and all that. So that's enough for part one. Part two, we'll get into note organizing and keeping your library organized and that kind of stuff. Till then, next time.